Welcome to Dad Esquire, the podcast for lawyer dads who are navigating the courtroom, the office, and the chaos of fatherhood. I'm your host, Matthew Korn, a practicing attorney and dad of four. At Dad Esquire, we tackle the unique challenges of balancing life as a lawyer dad. From work-life hacks to parenting wins and fails, I'm here to share stories, tips, and tools to help you thrive in both worlds. So grab your coffee, take a break from the billable hours, and let's spend some time focusing on being the best lawyer and dad you can be. It's time to dive in. This is Dad Esquire. All right, welcome everybody to the June 2025 edition of Lawyer Dad of the Month for the Dad Esque podcast. And I'm really excited today to be here with Clint and Turley. And I'm going to let Clinton introduce himself in a second. But first, just congratulations, Clinton, on being Lawyer Dad of the Month. Thanks for doing this interview with me. And we've known each other only a couple months, but have been really impressed with how much you've already contributed to our community in Dad-esque, and some of the cool stuff that you've had to say in our meetings and our bar meetings. So let me just turn it over to you. If you could just introduce yourself, just tell us a little bit about work and your family, and whichever one you want to start with, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm super excited to be here and been loving partaking in the community. It's been super helpful for me at work and at home. So been really nice to be partaking in the Dad-esque community. So yeah, my name's Clint Turley. Clinton Turley, doesn't matter what anybody calls me. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I live in St. Louis, Missouri now, suburb actually, Chesterfield, Missouri. Father of three. My oldest is Eli. He's 6. Our middle is Walter. He is 4, and our youngest is a year and a half. And his name is Arlo. 3 boys. My wife's Deborah, and I'm actually at home right now with my 6-year-old because it's the last day of school. My wife's a teacher, so she's finishing up her last day of school. So our lives kind of revolve around school years, with all the kids in school and being married to a teacher. So work-wise, I do insurance defense litigation work, personal injury business litigation, mostly trial stuff. Cases don't go to trial anymore, but that's kind of the idea. It's mostly litigation work, about 99% of what I do.
Awesome. And you're a Chiefs fan, right? Is that
I
correct?
am. If I take this off blurred and showed you this wall over here, there's a bunch of Chiefs stuff hanging up, and huge Chiefs fan. Grew up on '90s Chiefs football, and waited a long time to get where we are now. That I think people are starting to kind of throw us into like the Patriots Yankees fun to hate crowd, but I've been around for a long time as a fan, so it is what it is.
Yeah, you can see Josh Allen bobblehead behind me.
Oh yeah,
Haley and I were in. I will say we went to the AFC Championship in January, and it's just an awesome environment at Arrowhead. So, and the fans were gracious. Of course, they won, so it was easier to be gracious. But it was a great time. So, I want to just ask a couple follow-up questions. I just out of interest, like where did you meet your wife?
So we met in undergrad. She lived in a house with a bunch of girls, and a bunch of my guy friends lived across the street. So we kind of ran around in the same mutual friend group, but didn't start dating until a couple years after we met. Second year of law school, we started dating, and actually was long distance at that time.
Oh, cool. My wife and I dated for long distance for a couple of years. It's tough, but if you can survive that, it's easier when you're together.
Yeah, the sounds like my 6-year-old is coming down the stairs. The story of our first date is kind of funny because she lived in St. Louis and I was in law school at Mizzou in Columbia. What's up, buddy? Yeah, go ahead. So we were 2 hours apart, and we were going to meet in the middle in this town called Warrenton, and they had this like really, small town restaurant, unique to the town kind of thing. So we had planned to meet there. Well, I didn't realize they were closed on Sundays. And so we had to audible, and we ended up, our first date was at Applebee's. And this was in 2013. And we walked in, and the first thing they asked us was, do you want smoking or non? And I was very taken aback because in the bigger towns and cities, that's been a, no for a long time. So that was kind of the story of our first date. Kind of funny now because we drive past it all the time when we're going back and forth Kansas City.
Yeah, one of the things I've loved most about Dad-esque is like how many times we're on meetings and like we can immediately relate on things. And it's so fun. I didn't know that about you. And when my first date with my wife, I had actually booked a reservation. I thought I called and left a voicemail because they weren't answering the phone. And we went to the restaurant and it was closed for business. Like the restaurant, so not just closed one day a week, it was just
Sure.
closed.
Yeah.
So we had to walk like a mile down the road to the next restaurant it was not an Applebee's. That would have been amazing though if it was. But it's just literally our first date.
Yep.
And it's followed us for whatever reason. I often pick restaurants that are like closed for business. We'll be like, oh, we're gonna go check out this restaurant when we're traveling, and we get there and it's just shuttered. So, well, very cool. And then I know, tell me a little bit about just your experience at your firm and opening your office and stuff, because I thought that was a cool story.
Yeah. So I did an internship for a judge after my 1L year, summer after my 1L year, and I met the founder of our firm. He was just in court one day, and he came up to me and said, "Hey, we've got an office in Columbia," because this was in Kansas City. He said, "Looking for a law clerk." And so I interviewed and started clerking my 2L year and really never looked back, I guess. And so when I was probably a third or fourth year, probably a third year associate, in my yearly review, I wanted to be honest with them. I felt loyal to the firm and felt like I didn't want to, leave them hanging. I said, look, I like being here. I don't have any plans to leave other than the fact that we're probably going to move to St. Louis in the next 2 to 3 years. I just want to give you plenty of notice on it. But maybe by that time it could be, a business opportunity for us to open up a new office. And I know, I kind of knew the partnership track and I would be right on the edge of it. And so we moved to St. Louis in June of 2020. So I had been out right at 6 years, licensed a little less than 6 years. And we opened up the office on June 29th, 2020 in St. Louis. And I was the only person here as an office share, still had my assistant back in Kansas City, made partner the following January. And so now we just moved last May. We've been about a year at our new space. We've got 2 attorneys, an assistant here in person. We've got, conference room space. It's actually kind of funny because 2 weeks ago, 2 of the Kansas City partners were fighting over conference room space for depositions in St. Louis, randomly all in the same week. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was, and we were moving and buying a house and open up this office. So we only had 1 kid at the time. So it's like I look back and I'm just like, man, that was, things were so simple.
I thought that just the other day. I was like, and sometimes I think to myself, I work with attorneys who don't have kids, and it's a demanding job no matter what. When you add kids to it gets even tougher, I think. And then I look back and I'm like, but man, when I had one, and then we've got 4, and when we had one, and when we had 2,
Mhm.
when we had 3, and then the other day I just kind of took a moment to myself and said, you know what? Like, it's only going to get busier as my kids get older and they're involved in more and more activities. And I just need to be grateful for like where I am right now, because the future holds more, just more busyness.
Yeah, someone was telling me the other day that, I think some people will say, well, once your kids get out of daycare and they get into, elementary school, things get easier. And someone was telling me, don't ever believe that. Like, that is absolutely not true.
It's not been our experience, for sure. Our oldest is 10, he'll be 11 in October, and they just do more and more activities. So
Yeah.
it's busier. It's busy and it's challenging in different ways. Like I do like that they can bathe themselves
Right.
uh, and do all that stuff. So, all right. Well, I want to ask, and the last question I had was, your wife, Deborah, what grade level does she teach? You said she's a teacher.
Yeah, she's a high school math teacher. So for a few years, she taught a lot of entry, like freshman, sophomore stuff, but she's been out for a while now. And so she's teaching sophomore through senior, more or less, algebra 2, pre-calc kind of stuff.
Awesome. I'm a weird lawyer who really likes math. I always loved math, and did like math team when I was I'm a math.
Right.
So that's awesome to me. I
Yeah,
think.
she didn't start out as a teacher. She was a marketing major in undergrad and worked as a store manager for Kohl's department store, and really just did not like it. I mean, it's you stay at work until 11 p.m. on one day, and you got to be back there the next day at 7 a.m. to flip stuff and open up. And this was in early in our dating area, and I think we kind of just she laid it out there, and I said, why don't you just go back to school. Like you're young now, you keep sticking with it, you're gonna probably not turn back. So she went back to school and got a master's in teaching. And that so she took a couple year detour in retail, but she's loved being a teacher ever since.
Cool. Good for her. All right. So one of the things I like to ask at the beginning of these is just what's one thing about being a dad that surprised you the most, and same question about being a lawyer. Are there things that surprised you about becoming a lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, on the dad thing, I think maybe I'll phrase it more as just being a family man, of husband and dad, and what's been surprising about that. And I think it's maybe the ability to empathize with other people and see their situation. And we were, talking about this recently on one of the bar meetings or one of the events that we had with Dad S. Like, you get out into public and see people's kids just absolutely melting down, and it's kind of like your view on that maybe as a person without kids is totally different than it is now, and being able to empathize with those people and just go up to someone, pat them on the back, and say, "Man, I've been in your shoes. You don't got to stress out about it. Like most people here have kids, and if they don't, they've been a kid." So just being able to, I think, to relate to people on that has been surprising and nice to be able to kind of total strangers you just know they can relate to you, which is an odd thing to do sometimes, I think. Um, Most surprising thing. I mean, I don't know. I've always wanted to be a lawyer since I was a kid, so I don't know that I've had too many surprises in the law. Maybe the this is actually kind of surprising. I guess the ability to become an expert in something and then purge it immediately after the case resolves. Because a lot of stuff I do is car accidents, truck accidents, but then all of cases where I had a case a couple of years ago where there was an alleged leak from an HVAC system, carbon monoxide poisoning, sad case. And so I learned the ins and outs of the entire HVAC system of this house and the codes. And I don't remember any of it now, but for a while there, I could tell you everything about an HVAC system. And so that's kind of fun in the litigation world to learn those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I did health and safety work in the mining industry. And at one point I could tell you all sorts of things about how mines work and processing plants. And um it's fascinating to like learn that stuff. It does leave your mind quickly because you're like, I gotta move on to the next thing. But that's great. And I was thinking we did have that. I think that was during the Jared Green presentation we
Yeah.
had, where we were talking about that. And the other, like just last night, we were out at a restaurant and my daughter fell or bumped her head on the table or something and she was screaming. And it just doesn't even faze me anymore. I mean, maybe it's just 11 years of just experience. I was like early on, I was so embarrassed when like our kids were just acting out or something. But now I'm just like, hey, look, I'm sorry if you don't want to hear kids. It's like somebody at a the analogy for me is like somebody at a low limit blackjack table that gets upset when somebody makes a mistake on, standard rules. Like, look, if you don't want that, then go to a higher limit table. And like,
Right.
that's how I feel about restaurants now too. I'm
Yeah.
like, if you don't like kids screaming, then, don't go to Applebee's, go to the nice steakhouse. So
Yeah. We try to be intentional about where we, pick to go out to eat and stuff because we want
yeah,
for other people, but we also want our kids to have a good time.
yeah,
So
yeah. Any place where my kids can my kids love Olive Garden for some reason. We're there
mhm.
the other night too, and they love the breadsticks. And we go there, but they have this like one private room with like almost doors on it. And
Mhm.
my kids love that because they can like run around the table, and I'm just like, it's fine. We're in our little space. So, all right. So how do you balance, you opened an office for your firm, doing well at your firm, made partner. How do you balance all of that with being, an intentional present father for your children?
A lot of help from family, work late nights. I mean, that's the flexibility I think that we as lawyers, I should say most lawyers, not all lawyers have this, but I can take time during the workday today to do this, for example, and be here with my 6-year-old getting out of school, but it means I might be working from 9 to 11 o'clock tonight. And so you just got to have the ability to flex your schedule, I think is the biggest thing. And if it, and make the conscious decision, I think and it does sometimes require being conscious about it and saying, I can leave the office right now and go to my kid's 4 o'clock baseball game. I'll make up the time later, but you can't make up that baseball game later. And as we've talked about and with a lot of the meetings that we've had, I think that the industry is turning a little bit, and hopefully we can continue to make that happen. But I probably talk way too much about my kids and family, like opposing counsel. Like, dude, we know you have 3 kids. Like you've said it 4 times already, but I want it to be out there, and I want people to understand that's my priority. And so, when you ask me for deposition dates, and I've only got 2 available dates in the next 6 weeks, I'm sorry, but I've got a busy schedule at home and at work. So
Yeah.
you have to be conscious to make the decision to be there and not to place work over. Sometimes work does have to come first, obviously, but it's just a hard. You got to be conscious about making those decisions.
Yeah, 100%. And if you found, I was talking to some people in my firm about this the other day. If you found, I found sometimes like relating with clients and talking about my kids, because I like you, I mean, I don't know who doesn't like talking about their kids, but I love telling people about my kids. And have you found that that's helped you relate to people in a different way, or when you have those discussions with people, has that been, have you found pushback on that, or just being receptive to it?
No,
What's been
I
your
think
experience?
most people are receptive, and it's interesting because you'll have people that are in the same shoes as you are. They've got the same age group that you have, and so you can relate to them on that. But then, the case that I tried back in April, all the attorneys on their side, the other 3 attorneys, they all have kids that are some of them are older than me. So, but they can relate to say, yeah, I remember those days, and things are different now. And COVID, for what it was, gave us a lot of flexibility with remote working and things of that nature that we've been able to kind of, I think, people are receptive to saying, oh, I'm on a call, my kid walks in. People aren't as shocked by that anymore. So I think the community, the legal community in general, is being more receptive of that idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been my experience too. Um, how about being a dad? So you've been a lawyer longer than you've been a dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were already practicing. Has being a dad impacted how you approach your work as a lawyer?
Yeah, and like one example I was thinking of is a lot of what I do is personal injury work, and so maybe before I had kids and someone said, "Hey, what do you think this case is worth?" I would say, "Well, how much are the medical bills?" That's not my first question anymore. My first question is, how old is the person? What gender are they? How many kids do they have? And are they married? Because a single guy who breaks his ankle but works behind a computer, for example, doesn't really have to take any time off work. A case is worth total different amount of money if it's a single mom of 3 kids that breaks her ankle. And I think that approach in evaluating cases it became different as I had my kids and as we work to raise them and understand the impact they have on your life and how much time they take and effort.
Different perspective. Um, and vice versa, have there been like things that you've learned at work that have helped you think, be a better dad? Particularly like legal skills or whether it's negotiation or, whatever it is at work that has helped you be a better dad to them.
Hmm. Um, no, I don't know if I transfer it backwards that way. I think it works better for me the other
Yeah.
direction. Oh, maybe almost to the contrary. I try to take my lawyer hat off when I'm around the family because sometimes I'll catch myself like being a lawyer or thinking that way, because we're wired that way, and trying to reason with my kid during an argument or it just I'm just like, okay, you got to put dad hat back on and leave the lawyering at the office.
Yeah. Yeah. I could do well to listen to that advice sometimes. Especially when I'm talking to my wife and we're discussing something and I start to maybe get her on my side and then I switch sides because that's what lawyers do is we have to or at least I'm always thinking of what's the other side gonna say. So when somebody starts agreeing with me, I have this bad habit of then saying, well, but maybe
Right.
you consider this. Um, Great. Well, so June is our theme in Dad Ask. Every month we've got themes, and June themes marriage and relationships. So I already asked you, I skipped ahead a little bit, but I asked you about how you guys met. My wife's favorite question to ask we run a married couples group for married couples with kids at our church, and her favorite question to ask people is their engagement story. Um, can you share that with us?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So our engagement story goes all the way from our engagement through our wedding through our kids' nurseries. My wife is a huge, actually, this is my work desk, but she has her decorations on. Let me grab this. She's a huge Wizard of Oz fan. And so like we have stuff like this, like all over the house, like, little,
That's it's
little
awesome.
Timmy. I mean, there's probably 30 of them on top of my desk. So anyways, she's a huge Wizard of Oz fan. And so there's this town outside of Kansas City called Wamego, Kansas, and they host Oztoberfest every year. And so one year we went out to Oztoberfest, and they've got it's also sort of oddly paired with a car show, which I don't really understand, but they've got all these, Wizard of Oz themed things, and they have a yellow brick road. And so I proposed on the yellow brick road, which I think was well taken for my wife. And then we had a Wizard of Oz themed wedding, and the nursery that we've had for all three kids is Wizard of Oz themed. So it's kind of gone from the beginning all the way through. The youngest is still in the nursery, and so it's still Wizard of Oz themed.
It's awesome. Obviously well received. Apparently she said yes.
Yeah.
And so, what is a Wizard of Oz themed wedding? Like, what does it
So
look
my wife, where's here? Show you this too.
like?
So obviously not having kids, we had a lot more time on our hands. So my wife's very crafty, and so she made all the decorations for our wedding herself. And so we had, I mean, it was all black and white, gold, green themed. And then she made, like, for example, she refused to buy flowers for anything during the wedding because I agree with her. It's kind of a waste of money, and you just throw them out that night. So she handmade all of the flowers out of paper.
Oh,
Um, and so
it's
I got
very
the blur
impressive.
on, so it's kind of hard to see. But some of these you can kind of are like this one here. We can see the writing on it.
Yeah.
Those are book pages from different L. Frank Baum books and Wizard of Oz books and things like that. And so, the ties were green and my socks were black and white striped. So it was not like overly done. It was subtle, and worked really well.
I was envisioning like your groomsmen were like dressed in like, the lion suit and the
No,
tin. It wasn't that he didn't take it all the
no,
way there.
no, it wasn't
It's
that
tastefully
big.
done.
No.
Was the aisle a yellow brick road?
No, because it was grass. But we had
Oh,
like
okay.
yellow bricks. We had yellow bricks as part of the centerpiece on all the tables.
That's very cool.
Um, in our guest book, we handmade the guest book. I cut out little like one by one pieces of wood, and we painted them all gold. And glued them into this frame, and people signed those. So
Very cool.
it was all subtle enough, but everybody knew because they all know Deb really well. So
We um we went on the Icon of the Seas in December for when I turned 40 with my kids. And Royal Caribbean has, I think, one of like some of the really, really great like musical theater on their ships. And Wizard of Oz was the show on Icon. Um, so maybe a family trip in the future for you
yeah,
guys.
maybe
It was pretty cool. Like Dorothy was flying above the audience and the auditorium and everything. It was a pretty cool. My kids really really liked it. Pretty cool show, and it held my kids' attention, which I was nervous about. But
it was a musical version.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. I mean, they do like an abbreviate. I think that one might have been like an hour and a half or more though. It wasn't super abbreviated, but it's on a ship, and so I don't think it's like the full Broadway version. But it was a lot of fun. Um, All right. So your wife works as a teacher, and you work as an attorney. How do you guys divvy up or share kid duties?
So I kind of joke about this sometimes because people will say, "Well, yeah, you marry a teacher, and she's got summers off and breaks off, and winter break and Christmas break and spring break and all this stuff." And well, they forget to tell you that well, especially if you're married to a high school teacher, that she leaves for work at 6:15 every morning. And so I've got the kids, all three by myself every morning, which makes it pretty hard for me to get to any type of court hearing that's more than 30 minutes away by, 9 o'clock. But I do the kids all morning. She picks them up every day. And then mostly I am covering all of the sick days for the kind of the same reason we talked about earlier, that my job is
Flex.
more
Yeah.
flexible,
Yeah.
and my clients can wait for me to work on stuff next week or tonight or in the weekend. And, Deb can't teach high school at nighttime, so
Yeah.
I kind of see it as the impact on her students is bigger if she misses than it is on my clients if I miss. And so we try to split it up as much as we can, especially if I've got a big case coming up or something going on. She'll step in and take care of it. But um, I try to step up and take most of the sick days, and sometimes that impacts things on my end, and sometimes it works just fine. It's becoming a little bit easier now that kind of the older kids are a little bit more self-sufficient. But
Yeah, it's tough. Like my wife stays home, but there's still times where like last year she'd have to go up to New York to help her dad who's sick. And it's tough, especially if it's like unexpected, like a sick day for you, like you might have something lined up. But um our firm recently got like a benefit for emergency childcare, and I'm really excited that they did because I think it's super helpful to working parents. And something, I want to talk about in future dad meetings too, about like more firms if they can provide those kind of one of the times it was like I had a deposition and a federal court hearing on the same day. And then suddenly I have no, I had worked it all out so I could drop them off and my mother-in-law could pick them up. And then my 7-year-old woke up with 101 fever. He couldn't go to school. And so, it is nice to have the flexibility, but it creates some stress too, right? Like, cause at least for me, I have kind of a plan, and um, trying to move things around sometimes can be tough. So, um, how have you I think one of the tough things for me at least has been, demanding job, 4 kids under 10, maintaining that time just with my wife. How have you found a good way to do that or find ways to strengthen that relationship while you're managing all these other responsibilities?
yeah, we try to be very intentional about giving ourselves the time that we deserve together, and to have the kids, go hang out with their cousins or something. And we're blessed that my wife's both her sisters have kids, and one of them lives about a mile and a half from us, or even less than that. And one lives just a couple more miles. And so we all try to do a really good job together to say, if you watch my kids this day, like yesterday was our anniversary actually. And so we went out for that. And um, my oldest rode the bus home with his cousin, and then my sister-in-law picked up the other two from preschool, and her youngest still goes there. So we do a good job swapping those duties around. And if one other sibling, is reticent to take time off for themselves, we kind of force it on them, and we'll just pick up their kids and take them from them basically, and say, go spend time with your husband, and enjoy yourselves and celebrate whatever anniversary or birthday or for no reason. But we try to do that back and forth so that when it's our turn, we don't feel as bad somebody else taking on our kids.
Yeah, that's great. It's good to have the family close by. I know for us, like we for it after we had our first son, we hadn't gone away. We did like little short weekend trips. We hadn't gone away for a week for um like 7 years by the time we went away, just the two of us for a week. And that was I always encourage like people with like younger kids, as soon as they feel comfortable leaving their kid for that long. Um
We've
just to
never done a week. I think the most we've done is 3 or 4 nights.
Yeah, well, I mean, I that was us for like 7 years, and then we went. It was our 10-year anniversary, so we're like, we're gonna do a week, um, and and it was just like it takes me at least 2 or 3 days to really get out of like work, like my mind thinking about work, and so it was just a whole different experience. So now what we do is we alternate years. I feel bad like taking a week and not seeing my kids, So it's like every other year we'll do a week, just the two of us, and then we'll do a week with the kids. But I think
Yeah,
taking
that's well.
taking that time, because that relationship's important too. I don't think you can be the best dad you can be without being a good partner and strengthen that relationship with your partner. So um cool. All right. So just some like wins. I like to just find out like and this is your lawyer dad of the month, so like brag on yourself, but proudest moment as a dad.
Ooh, it's I think it's more of a category than it is a single moment. But and this kind of goes back to strengthen the relationship. I think is that Deb and I try to also be intentional about me taking guys trip and her taking girls trips and letting each other get away and kind of resetting and because you got to maintain friendships too, right? It's a lot of work stuff to maintain and kids and family and friends, and so I'm just proud that I'm able to. If Deb can go away without worry, and I've got everything locked down, take care of all three kids, and don't have an issue doing it 2 or 3 days at a time, and or more if it's necessary. And I'm just proud that I'm able to do that and don't require a lot of help. Kids enjoy it. They're not screaming and crying that much that mom's leaving because they know that we're going to have a good time too.
Yeah. I always, my wife, the first time she left me with our kids, she's like, I'm just nervous. You're gonna be okay. And I was like, look, they're going to eat more McDonald's and they're probably not going to get bathed quite as often, but they will be alive when you get home. I
Yeah,
promise.
right.
It'll be and I just had them last weekend, last weekend by myself, and it was great. We had an awesome time, but we ate out every meal because it's
Yeah,
just like the idea of cooking, cleaning up, and like serving them all is too much for me. So I'm like,
yeah, it's hard.
go out. Um, that's good. Well, so in the guy trip things is really an interesting one too, in a really I think important one, and we try to do that too. Is like, um, give you just a little like I've talked to a lot of dads and lawyer dads that are like one of my biggest challenges is I feel like I am constantly doing work or family stuff or whatever, and I don't have time for myself. And I think that's important too, right? Like we're balancing a lot of different things or trying to prioritize a lot of different things, but um, I know we've already talked about it, but I want for the benefit of the people on the podcast, tell us a little bit about your most recent guy trip.
Yeah, so Monday, Memorial Day, I just got back from a 4 day bike packing trip, which I've never done before and never thought that I would do in my wildest dreams. But one of my buddies from high school had this idea, and four of us biked 245 miles over 4 days. And I had to go to Kansas City first, so it was an extra night because I went last Thursday, so I was gone, Thursday through Monday. And Deb had the kids, and we had to figure out, she had to take them in the morning on Friday to school and stuff, and got to work late because of that, but was able to swing it and get some help from her family over the weekend. But the trip was phenomenal. We got rained on a little bit, about 5 or 6 hours, unfortunately, on our longest day, but of 84 miles. But it was a good reset for me. It was a good challenge. I have never done any type of endurance competition or event like that before, and so it was really cool. And part of it is like I think what you just said was right, is that it's hard. Well, I work all the time and family, and sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. And for me, that meant maybe spending more money than I probably should have on this trip, prepping for it and buying a bike and Airbnbs and meals out and gear and all that stuff. But kind of just told myself, look, this is something that I've never done before. Don't take that kind of time for myself very often, and so I am just gonna spend a little bit more money and time. And Deb was very supportive of me and the kids. And I had a big note on a poster board when I got home. And so they were there waiting at the station for us when we crossed the last stop. It was really an awesome experience from an individual perspective on my end and friendship with the guys, and, with Deb and with the kids too, just all around great experience.
Yeah, and you posted some pictures in the community in the chat feature, and It was just cool seeing you with the kids and your wife at the end. Um, I think I commented like, I think you were like squatting with your
It
kids in the
was,
picture. And I was like, that must have been excruciating
yeah.
after
And
four
like
days of
you did
biking.
comment about it, and it was because I picked up the two youngest and squat bent down. It was, yeah, because I'm still the day after I was like, okay, I'm not in that much pain. And then yesterday and today both have been worse.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was hard, but you're kind of you're pumping adrenaline and a lot of endorphins and happy to see your family, so you kind of ignore it for a minute.
sure, sure. No, that is awesome. Yeah, the soreness like kicks in. I did two marathons in college, and it's like the second day after,
Yeah.
and stairs going up and down stairs is brutal.
Hmm.
So you try to just stay on the same floor of your house if you can. Um, all right, what is just a general parenting strategy or hack that works for your family? Is there anything you guys? What's the secret to having three kids and
Color
managing all this
coded,
stuff?
color coded Google Calendar. Um, that is, we live and die by it. Each kid has a color. We each have a color. The family has a color. And so it's very type A, but if you look at our Google Calendar, it is everything's in there. If we have a dinner plan with somebody or somebody stays overnight at our house, and part of it's planning in advance, but it also works well too because we'll be like, what did we do last year for Memorial Day? And we can kind of look at our calendar, and you could look at pictures too, right? But the doctor's appointment, I mean, Deb's actually taken the youngest to an allergy appointment in 20 minutes. And so, I get the notification for that. We just live and die by it. I don't know how people can operate without a calendar with multiple kids.
Um, yeah, that is a good one. We don't have a Google calendar. I think my wife uses Google. She sends me things to my work calendar because that's the one I
Right.
look my Outlook calendar. So that's the one I get notifications on. Is your wife type A too?
A little bit, maybe not as much as me, but I think it's being able to just have the plan in place and organized and as busy as we are. And we're very social people too, outside of family and with friends and all our friends that have kids. So I just don't know any other way that you could stay organized or that we can do it at least without that.
Yeah, we were, as you know, we recently just like purchased a new home and we're
Mm-hmm.
selling our house. So we were looking at appliances the other night and we like briefly debated the fridge with like the calendar on the fridge.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I mean, that seems a little gimmicky to me. Like we have an Amazon Alexa right next to the fridge. We've got our phones. Like, do we really need a calendar on? Is that worth $1,000 or whatever the
Right.
surcharge is for that? So we decided against it. But
Just
and
one more electronic that can break too, probably, I guess.
that's
But
right. That's right. And so, yeah, we voted against that. And then we thought about the ones where you could see through it. My wife's like, do we really want to be looking at the inside of our fridge?
or
Like,
do
I
I
don't
want
think,
or do I want people at my house looking at the
yeah,
inside of my fridge?
yeah, it's like that. I'm not sure that's the best either. So we went for a more traditional fridge. But I mean, my wife, I think recently she told me she's type C. I've seen some like Instagram reels about this like type C. And she's sending me some and she's like, I think this might be me. But I'm super type A, and I would say I'm like you, I'm more so type A than she is. And I think that balance is like really good for us, at least like she chills me out sometimes when I'm like too type A. And I like to think I bring some structure and organization to certain things too. So I think having that balance is good for us at least. Um, all right, I'm gonna ask some like questions that weren't on the outline, just quick hit questions. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite like family tradition?
Um, yeah. So with our sort of immediate cluster, I guess, of Deb and the kids is, I grew up sort of non-denominational Christian. My wife is pretty conservative Jewish, keeps kosher, and so the kids go to preschool to synagogue, and so I've learned a lot over the past decade or so about Jewish holidays, and so we had a Jewish wedding, and in the Jewish tradition, you get married under what's called a chuppah, which is kind of just like a pergola, for lack of a better term. And my dad, is a carpenter, built it for us, so it was really cool. And there's another Jewish holiday called Sukkot, and during that holiday, you're supposed to build sort of this outdoor structure to kind of represent outdoor structures that the Jews had to build when they were living in the desert. And so we use our huppah as our sukkah during Sukkot, and we rebuild it every year and decorate it. And it's just kind of a cool tradition that I think ties in our wedding to the kids learning about Jewish holidays and things at preschool. And then we have dinners under it, and we invite our my wife's all big family over and stuff. So it's kind of a cool yearly thing that happens.
Very, very cool. My wife had a good friend in college, and she was Catholic, and married a Jewish guy. So I once attended a Catholic Jewish fusion wedding, which is
Wow.
really, it was probably one of my favorite weddings. And I don't know I don't recall what the term is, but I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I really want to be one of the guys that holds like the chair leg. And
Yeah.
I got to do that. And I was like, this is
Yeah.
probably one of the coolest weddings I've ever been to.
They're
Uh,
fun. Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. He smashed the cup and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just this weird. It was like a Catholic priest and then the Jewish tradition there too. But it worked, and they're still married and love each other, and it's just a wonderful thing. So, and then the kids get to learn different things too. So, um, what's your do you have? I don't know if you're a TV guy. You just went on a 240-mile bike ride, but do you have a guilty pleasure TV show or a kids TV show or movie?
Not right now. We kind of go in spurts. I mean, um, for a while, Deb and I really, really liked Ted Lasso. And we got really into that. Um, but I don't have like a guilty pleasure TV show that I click on all the time. It'd probably be sports, more than anything. Just having it on the background. I might be down here working and TV behind me. I got the Royals game on or something.
Is that your favorite baseball?
No, well, I don't know. Probably football is my favorite, but it's also seasonal. It's like you ask me again in November, and I might have a different answer than I do in the spring, but or
Yeah.
depending on how well people are doing.
Um, one or two more. Are you a coffee guy?
I am well. I drink coffee every day, but I don't require it. If I skip a day, I'm not going to have a headache or something like that.
What kind of how do you take your coffee?
Just old school Folgers drip coffee, and some days it's black, and some days there's cream in it.
All right. We got a Nespresso in our office recently.
Yeah, we just got one too. I mean, not just we have one at home though.
Yeah, I got like addicted to it at work, and I told my wife, I said, this is amazing. Like we need one of these. And so that was my Christmas present this year. And now we have it at home, and I'm like, it's incredible. I mean, I don't
I mean,
like
if you spend money at coffee shops and stuff, Nespresso's a pretty good replacement for that.
it is. It is. And like the pods are more than like a K cup, but they're not the same as a Starbucks coffee.
Right.
So even the Starbucks pods are I think cheaper than buying them at the actual store. So um all right. And then I heard you say work 9 to 11, but I also heard you say you get the kids up before 6:15. Would you consider yourself more of a morning or a late night person? Or is it just both for you? So,
My dad will tell you that the Turleys don't require a lot of sleep. And it's kind of just something my dad's the same way. And if I can get 5 hours, I'll be fine. Try to get like 6 hours, is what we try to average. I mean, I'm usually in bed by 11 o'clock, up at 6. So try to get right at that 6 to 7 hour mark. But, we just usually have a lot of energy, don't require a lot of sleep. And, I don't sit down a lot. It makes my mother-in-law nervous. She's always telling me to sit down. I'm like, fine. I don't need a chair.
that is, I've probably said it in one of our meetings, but like one of the one of the reasons I started Dad Ask was a guy's asking me about how do you manage 4 kids and working at a law firm, and I'm like, less sleep. That's just that's the only answer.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a better answer than that because that's not great either. But similarly, like I don't. I'm probably more of a morning person, but like found myself like if I have to work at night, I work at night. You get it done. So, um, well, great. Is there my favorite depot question? Anything we didn't discuss today that we should discuss?
I was just listening to a podcast recently, and the journalist said that's his favorite question to ask somebody in an interview is to say, what did I not ask you that I should have asked you?
Yeah.
But no, I think we hit it all for the time that we've allotted ourselves.
That's awesome. Well, Clint, thank you so
Oh,
much.
all right. One more. Yeah,
Oh,
one. We do have a dog. I don't know how I didn't talk about him yet. Ozzy is a black lab rescue mix. He was even on our cake topper for our wedding. We didn't have kids at the time, so he was our kid. So he'll be 10 in July, and he goes everywhere with us. He goes on vacation with us. He goes back and forth to Kansas City to my in-laws. So he's laying right here actually right now. So
awesome. That is great. Well, I'm glad. And it's Ozzy, you said?
Ozzy, yeah.
Awesome. Is there a Osborne or is there some name for that?
Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow. It's already been a long day for me, apparently.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, good. Well, thanks, Clint. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I mean, I'm so glad you're part of Dad-esque and looking forward to continuing to see the community grow and having you be a part of help shape it going forward. So
Yeah,
thanks.
you're doing awesome stuff you've built for us, and I think that community is starting to help you build it back bigger. So hopefully we can all continue to do that.
Good, man. Well, thanks. Have a great day. Bye.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in to Dad Esquire. If you found value in today's episode, leave a review and share it with other lawyer dads who could use a little extra support. For more tips, stories, and community, subscribe to our podcast and visit www.dadesq.com. If you're a lawyer dad who wants to join the community, submit your request to join today at www.dadesq.mn.co. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and on Instagram at dad_esquire for even more updates and, of course, some lawyer dad jokes. Until next time, keep crushing it at work and home. You've got this, lawyer dad.